we've all felt the soft touch of grace in our lives. There are moments that lift us up when we've fallen. They're moments of grace. Grace. It seems inevitable. What does it mean to dishonor someone? What does it mean to dishonor yourself? And those two questions are ever connected. Dishonor runs deep. We dishonor ourselves every time we don't accept the way we feel or behave. All feelings are journeys, and our suffering is a journey. And we have to begin with the knowing that we must honor it. We must even honor dishonor at some level. The shadow frequency, we always revert into a victim stance. And if we don't stop and look, how will we ever see the pattern? Don't try and run or shirk your own program. We have to face it. We have to deal with it. We have to be accountable for our behavior, for our feelings. For our thoughts. For our self-judgments. And then we have a chance of letting go of those self-judgments. We have to have the chance. It's a process of awareness, that's all. It's simple. Contemplation really, really helps you see these things because it gives you the space, it gives you the pause necessary to see the issue at hand. We have to accept our shadows. It really is a huge challenge for humans. You know, life is about learning to be accountable for one's own state. But more often, usually, we blame another person. We don't take responsibility for our own state. We look for a reason. You see, it's not so easy to account for yourself because our own issues get tangled up with the issues of others. This is the dilemma. We aren't comfortable being uncomfortable. So we deflect our awareness in some way out of the present moment. Dishonor is always about us first. You dishonor yourself whenever you blame anything for anything, because there's no fault. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We just have to be honest about it. This honoring of the pattern itself is what begins the process of transformation. It cries out over and over for our attention, for our awareness, and we just have to learn to let it in. It's just honesty, self-honesty, that's all that's needed. Let's be clear, this is all about the emotions. You know, the 22nd gene key is the great emotional valve. Graciousness. It's so beautiful, it's so practical, and it's so simple. It's the path to grace, after all. It will save your life. It will save anyone in any situation, anywhere. It's a whole cocktail of noble qualities. It's also very refined and often very subtle because it's an attitude carried in our aura and it's rooted in a deep reverence for all life. It's just fantastic. But it all stems from your ability to be accountable, because when you're accountable for your own aura, for your own chemistry, for your own emotions, then you move in such a clean way through the world, because all your accounts are settled as you go along. You don't allow debts to build up. And the great word for this gift is the word soul. Soul is when you begin to emanate the quality of your essence. It's a refining of your emotions. When our soul really shines out, we even begin to let go of the need for pleasure. And then we become grateful for whatever life brings. And that's another quality inherent in graciousness, gratitude. When you feel grateful to life, it's because you're so aware of death, and so your priorities are transformed. And so as we let go of pleasure, so we let go of pain. We become more accepting of life and its rhythms. You know, this is what graciousness brings us. We're no longer a victim of the pleasure-pain cycle. To live with equanimity is to live life lightly, but at the same time, deeply. It means you pay attention, but you have an unquenchable inner calm. Graciousness. Graciousness is the process of bringing grace into form. So graciousness invites grace. And graciousness doesn't exist without challenges. It thrives on challenges. Life will go on testing your graciousness. It needs to be tested so that you can refine it. How graciously do you treat yourself? How graciously do you treat others? It's honest. It has a soft touch. It carries a story with depth and humor, but it isn't perfect. It's just human. True graciousness can be really gritty. It can be rough around the edges. And graciousness carries a kind of cosmic kindness inside it. When we're gracious, we often hold back from saying something that we might have said otherwise, because it might stir someone up. You don't allow your own issues to get tangled up with theirs. And so when you stop judging yourself, then you're no longer going to judge others. And we learn to be careful without being fearful. And we learn to be warm without being overbearing. And we learn to be candid without being cruel. It's a balancing act, is the gift frequency. It's a transformational field in which we're steadily refined. And it's all because we learn to stop dishonoring ourselves at the very deepest level. You see, it's really about owning your own stuff. It's about treating yourself and others with dignity, no matter how they behave. Just this morning when I was running around the hills here in Devon, shortly after dawn, I encountered a little bird, a tiny bird, a goldcrest. And it was just sitting on the hedgerow before me as I ran along the road. And it stopped me dead in my tracks. I just saw it, a little glint of gold. It's a rare little bird, a tiny thing, but with this incredible gold sash on its head. And it gave me one of those magical pauses. You know, once it had flitted away, I was off again. But I carried it with me, that little moment of grace, that flash of gold. And now here it is, embedded forever in this story, in this gene key. Isn't it funny, grace? Sometimes grace just falls on you, and you can't predict when it will occur, and you can't do anything to make it happen. But you can prepare the ground through the way you deal with difficulties and with graciousness. We have this term, a fall from grace, and it's poignant because grace is often about how we deal with the shadows, how we deal with our mistakes. It all comes back to accountability. We have to deal with our falls as cleanly and openly as possible. Grace is buried in every shadow. It's a gift given to us to open us up to another possibility. That flash of gold. These moments, these spots of time, they're not to be missed. They're to be savoured, and they're to be allowed to mature inside us, because they're the stepping stones for a higher life. And the more grateful we are, the more often they appear. And we all experience spots of time. We've all felt the soft touch of grace in our lives. It's worth spending some time in your contemplation calling back those moments and luxuriating in them. They're the markers of grace in our lives. So grace can mean many things to many people, but it's also the same for all people, because there are states of being that transcend suffering, and that is the ultimate meaning of grace. Those states may one day become more readily available to us. So in your life, let your contemplation touch upon grace, on those spots of time that come every now and again. The more you pause and listen, the more grateful and gracious your spirit becomes, and the more of those experiences you'll have, until one day you just vanish, you just evanesce into those higher initiations spoken of in the 22nd city. The 22nd gene key is the seventh seal itself. It contains the codes for the healing of all humanity's wounds. It's the real divine feminine, the spirit of grace, practical, unpalpable, numinous, but always available to the one who loves